Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is the great Malabite Arise News analyst, Emmanuel Ifeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Yes, we'll start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, Chicago State University confirms Tinubu attended institution, graduated in 1979, tells CBS. As an educational institution, we are sometimes asked to provide information related to student records. Federal law known as the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act protects the privacy of student records and limits what an institution can release. Yes, the Chicago State University yesterday confirmed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu attended the university and graduated in 1979. Yes, of course, the university disclosed this in a statement issued to CBS Broadcasting Incorporated, generally referred to one of America's biggest and most influential news network. And of course, the report goes on to say that it, however, pointed out that United States federal law, prevented that. Okay, we've read that before. But now, there are other parts of this report. Of course, that hearing was at the instance of Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the PDP, who had asked the university to provide evidence of Tinubu's attendance of CSU, Chicago State University. At a hearing in Chicago this week, Atiku's lawyers had asked the federal judge to compel CSU officials to turn over Tinubu's academic records. But the report went further to say CSU's lawyer Michael Hayes told Gilbert, that's the judge, that the university wouldn't be able to certify Tinubu's diploma under oath.
Why?
Yes, according to a CPU spokesman, the university could confirm the president graduated. However, it cannot authenticate the diploma because it was a ceremonial document and not part of a student's official academic file. Well, I'm sure there's still a lot of head scratching to be done in this report. But Ruben, you always draw our attention to the Constitution and the requirement to be a governor or a president, school sat. Even in this particular instance, can you put a finger on the school sat or the secondary school or the primary school? So it makes it a bit complex, Ruben. It's not as straightforward as just quoting the Constitution, my brother. Now, let me just move over to other stories, also in the front page of this newspaper. President, I will permanently change Nigeria's narrative of poverty insecurity. Vows to work hard with purpose, determination, dedication. Unlike predecessor, says, nation not peopled by lazy citizens, pledges to reverse ugly trend, achieve possibilities. Of course, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, over time in the last 100 days and counting, has been very tall in promises and making good statements that easily grab the front pages of newspaper. But implementation, Nigerians are still waiting. And if you read the New Telegraph newspaper, our next newspaper there, growing poverty may lead to serious crisis. PDP BOT warns federal government. Nigeria, rivers have no business with poverty. Tinubu pledges to reconstruct 11 axis of the east-west road, says Wike, one of his trusted allies. Well, on this program, Wike has received a lot of accolades this morning. I don't know what to add. But when you see a delegation of Rivers bigwigs, chieftains and chiefs visiting the president, and you cannot find Rotimi Amechi among that group, A stalwart of the APC tells you how so much water has passed under the bridge. Now, if we just look at the next newspaper, the Punch newspaper, Rufai, you're complaining about Nigeria's debt. Yes, Nigeria's debt jumps by 75% in 3 months, hit 87 trillion naira. How CBN loans to federal government, new debts, promissory note, raised public debt by 37 trillion naira between April and June. Tinubu's reform will improve debt sustainability. DMO assures Nigerians as latest figure overshoots agency projection by 10 trillion naira. Now, the other newspaper there, yes, let's look at the leadership newspaper. The leadership newspaper, why Nigerians are still crying. 2 weeks after 180 billion naira palliatives, hardship persists in states. Governors foot drag as residents question distribution processes. Senate carpets NLC over alleged 100 million naira palliative to legislators. Well, we've asked, what did you get? What was the content of that special mail prayers sent to your mailboxes? The euphemism for what many Nigerians know. Now, the Business Day newspaper, AFDB's $250 million grant to light up rural Nigeria. Now, Nigeria's off-grid renewable energy space could see a cash rain, as Minister of Power says the African Development Bank has confirmed its readiness to disburse a previously approved $250 million electrification fund for rural electrification. My worry here is that the last time monies were budgeted for rural electrification, it was stories probe of how money was spent, no results that we got in this country. If $250 million coming for rural electrification, we want to see the modalities, the projects of how this money will be judiciously employed and deployed. Otherwise, we don't want to hear stories down the years, oh, how the money was spent, Senate Committee on Electrification, House of Rep Committee on Electrification, and they will be pointing fingers at each other, including those who are even in the legislature. We have seen that happen in this country before. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, outrage as national power grid collapses twice in 6 hours. And, of course, looking like a familiar story, national grid collapse. But this time, it did not last long, but twice in a day, very worrisome. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper, 3 days to deadline, federal government yet to recover anchor borrowers' loan from farmers. Well, I hope those farmers whose crops were destroyed by flood last year will also be given some respite because in their own case, they can also declare force majeure of what happened to their crops. Now, the Nation newspaper, Defense Headquarters Police turn heat on oil thieves, economic saboteurs. 1 million liters of stolen crude seized in 1 week. IG. Others clamp down on firearms production. Now, the Guardian newspaper, sporty this Friday, the Guardian newspaper, Sports Stars, made in Nigeria on loan to the world. Talking about Nigerian born, not Nigerian born, of course, foreign-born Nigerian players who are playing for other countries. But I thought Guardian should look the other way around because there are many foreign-born Nigerians these days, our super egos, peopled by what they call Oyinbo and, of course, Nigerian children born to Nigerians in foreign soil. And while other countries are benefiting from Nigerian-born kids, Nigeria is also benefiting from these kids born outside our shores. They are coming home to do Nigeria proud, whether in football, in basketball, in athletics, and in women's football, as we saw during the Women's World Cup, where that the Leicester left back, yes, opted to play for Nigeria instead of England. So it's win-win for both ways. The countries of their births and the countries of their parents are all benefiting from their talents. Now, the foreign newspaper quickly, if we look at the foreign newspaper quickly, yes, the Times of London, accident and emergency delays put patients in danger, says doctor. Fears raised as total NHS waiting list hit 7.7 million patients on waiting list, while the Daily Telegraph pupils to isolate for 21 days as measles cases rise. 160,000 feared among unvaccinated children after low uptake in MMR jabs. Ruben Rufai and Ayo, if there's still some time.
There's no time for chat. But in any case, some of the issues you have raised, I keep insisting that this issue of certificate, nothing will come out of it. After all, the tribunal already ruled that, look, President Tinubu is a fit and proper person for that office, and that issues raised about his qualification or his citizenship are of no moment. But we still wait for the Supreme Court to pronounce on that. Except you can establish perjury. There's nothing there. Right. Once upon a time in this country, I think, was it the House of Reps or so, tried to take a second look at Section 131 to say, okay, you are a citizen of Nigeria by birth, you are 40 years old, and then the Constitution says in sub D that, you must have a school cert or its equivalent, or as INEC interprets it. They wanted to say you must have the minimum of a first degree. Do you know that that bill did not succeed? Yeah, even the Waste Commission considered the matter. So, look, one of these days, you will have a stark illiterate as president of Nigeria. Exactly. That is the reality.
That's what we are trying to avoid.
And let's not also forget.
That's what we're trying to avoid.
All these things are of no moment. Let's not forget the case of Salisu Buhari.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.